Hey guys, and welcome back to my kitchen. But in case this is the first time you're stopping by, my name is Gina and I'm a wife and mother from the Midwest, and I enjoy cooking fresh meals for my family, and sometimes I make videos of my recipes and I post them here on YouTube. Today I'm going to be giving you, a quick recipe tutorial on how I make ceviche. It's really more of a tutorial because there's no actual cooking involved and it's a very fluid recipe. So today I'm going to be using tilapia, but you could feel free to choose other types of seafood protein like cod or a different type of whitefish or even shrimp. But tilapia is inexpensive and easily available here, so that's what I'm going to be using today. I got this package at Aldi and I want to say it was like $3, and I think there's like 4 or 5 fillets in here, so we'll see when we open that up. So you're going to need some protein. We're also going to be needing some fresh lime juice, and I have 4 here, but I might use 4, I might use less. We'll just kind of have to see once everything is in the bowl when we start mixing it. Excuse me. Jeez, I hope I don't have coronavirus. The next thing we're going to need is some fresh cilantro. You're going to need some fresh jalapeno, or you could use serrano chiles if you prefer. I'm not sure if I'm going to use 2 of them. I kind of, again, need to see once I get the tilapia in the bowl how much vegetables I need to add to it. I also have a tomato and a half out. I shouldn't need all of that, but just being prepared. You're going to need an onion. I'm using a red onion because I think it looks nice for color. I think probably traditionally they would use a white onion, but I just like the way that like pico de gallo and ceviche look with the red onion. I think it just looks nice, and you eat with your eyes first, people. To season it is super simple. You just need some salt and some pepper. And then for serving it, we eat it either as tostadas, or you can eat it on galletas, which are like saltine crackers. And then my husband likes to put salsa valentina on top. So if you have this or any type of like red chile salsa that you guys like to use, go ahead and serve it with that. I might bust out an avocado if I'm feeling crazy. I'm not sure. So let me go ahead and get out my food processor, because that's what we're going to use to chop the tilapia into teeny tiny pieces. It is not completely necessary, but it makes things way easier. So hold on a second and I'll be right back. Okay, so first things first, I have my food processor here. I just have this Cuisinart standard food processor, and the blade we're going to be using is the normal food processor blade. You don't need to use any of the discs or anything, because we're just going to try to pulse this into a really finely chopped like mince of cheese of the tilapia. So I'm just going to go ahead and set the blade in there. And then the other thing I like about tilapia is it is a very thin fish. So I literally just took this out of the freezer. I have a little bit of like warmish water in here, and I'm just kind of trying to get it defrosted enough so that I can cut it into some manageable size chunks to stick in our food processor. So I'm just going to let that sit there for another minute or two. And as you can see, the tilapia did come with 4 fillets in there, so that'll be perfect. Let me go ahead and get these opened, and I'll show you what they look like before we put them in there and start pulsing. Okay, so I just wanted to pop in and show you the size of these chunks. They're about 2 inches, but it doesn't need to be exact because, I mean, we're going to be grinding it up. But you don't want it to turn into a paste of tilapia. You want it to be like really small, like a mince. So it's better to give it a little bit of a head start by chopping it up, so that way it's not grinding so hard on it, especially because mine is semi-frozen. But I've actually found that like semi-frozen fish and meat is easier to chop, so it should actually work a little bit better. So now we're just going to go ahead and pulse this. I'm going to scrape down the sides. You don't want to over process it. Give it a little bit of a mix. Let's check it out. All right, this looks pretty good. Just checking for any large chunks, but this looks great. It's really kind of hard to see, but for the most part, I mean, this is almost like ground meat, like ground beef texture. It's not a paste, but it's not like, this is way smaller than you'd be able to cut it with your knife. I mean, you could cut it with a knife. Like I said, it's not totally necessary, but you're going to be mincing it for a while. So I'm going to go ahead and scoop this into our dish and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I went ahead and I just squeezed my 4 limes into a glass, and I actually did measure it. This is exactly a 1/4 cup of lime juice. They were really, really dry limes, because I've had limes, like 4 limes can give you a 1/2 of a cup, depending on how juicy they are, but these are like, they were really dry. So just so you have an idea, I'm going to start with this and see if I need more or less, and that'll give you an idea as to how much you're supposed to add. So I have made the mistake before of adding way too much lime juice when I was first making this, because this is what is actually going to cook your protein, or our tilapia. The citric acid in there actually does a chemical reaction with the meat, and it cooks it for you. So I almost just burned myself on the stove. We're just going to go ahead and start drizzling this in here, and you just want to have like a nice coating on the fish. Yeah, I need the whole thing. So a 1/4 cup seems to be just about right. I don't like this spatula. Hang on. I'm going to go ahead and get this mixed in very well, and then stick this in the fridge while I start chopping up the rest of our vegetables. Because I don't want to cross-contaminate any of our raw vegetables with this fish, because it's not cooked yet. But I don't know if you can tell, like, it's already starting to turn opaque that quickly from the lemon juice or the lime juice. I made it a little bit more when we're finishing it. So I'm just basically going to pack all of this fish down so that everything is covered with lime juice. Perfect. Toss this in the sink and I will be back. Okay, so just wanted to pop on quickly and show you about the tomatoes. So you're trying to like seed them, remove as many seeds as possible. And I find this easier with Roma tomatoes, but I don't have them today. This is what I had. The Roma tomatoes were like orange and super not ripe this week. So I got traditional tomatoes. So you're just gonna cut them into quarters and then remove the flesh, and then you'll come to where the seeds are, as you can see here. And then you're going to scrape the seeds out with your knife. You don't have to be totally perfect. 1 or 2 can be in there. And then you're going to go ahead and mince the flesh so you have small pieces like that. So let me get these chopped up and I'll be back with our jalapeno. Okay, so here is our jalapeno, and I just wanted to pop on and show you the what I do. So I go ahead and I cut the end off. I split them in half, and then I remove all of the seeds and the veins from the insides, because we're going to be eating it with the salsa valentina on top, which is spicy already. So you don't need too much heat from your chiles. It's more of a flavor of the jalapeno that you want to add to it. So in this little pile, that's 1.5 jalapenos, and that'll be more than enough. So this is just, we're not going to use that for this. Let me go ahead and mince up my onion and my cilantro. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done, but there's no special instructions on that. And then we basically just got to mix it up and season it with salt and pepper. So I'll be back in a flash. All right, guys, so I did end up adding another whole juice of a lime, which is probably the equivalent of 2 more tablespoons of lime juice to this, and mixing it once halfway through because it wasn't cooking as fast as it should, which is just something you'll learn from experience. I'd say that this was probably in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes now, and it's totally cooked. So as you can see, it's completely opaque. It is no longer pink. And you can kind of like fluff it almost like rice. It's much more of a solid texture. It is not gelatinous or raw at this point. So that is that. Kind of mix it around a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. This is a 1/2 teaspoon thing just to this fish to get it started, because this is kind of a small bowl, and a little dusting of black pepper. That's like a pinch. It's not even like 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start layering in our ingredients. This is 1 tomato. I didn't use the other half, so I'm just going to kind of go, let me roll up my sleeves. Sorry, guys. And start adding stuff in. Again, this is 1.5 jalapenos diced up. This is 1/2 of a red onion. So basically you're making pico de gallo, but cooking fish in the lime juice first. And I prefer, I've seen people mix up like the fish and all the veggies and everything together at once. And then let that all marinate together. But I'm not an expert on food safety. Please be aware of that. Like, 30 minutes doesn't necessarily mean your fish is going to be cooked. Like, you just got to kind of keep an eye on it. But I like to cook the fish so that it's not raw before I'm adding the raw vegetables in. I just feel like that's correct. And then this was one small bunch of cilantro that I chopped up, and I washed it obviously and minced it. So I didn't add the whole thing, probably about half of a thing of cilantro. And now I'm just going to go ahead and start mixing. So bear with me. I'm not going to look at the camera because it's way too hard to look at the camera and stir. This is like a really extensive mixing part, guys. I'm going to go ahead and taste it. And it needs more salt. I'm going to go ahead and say another half of a teaspoon, or excuse me, quarter. So that would mean that this is a total of half of a teaspoon of salt that I've added to this. You could add more or less, and then a little bit more of pepper. Let me go ahead and thoroughly mix this, and I'll be back when we plate it up. Okie dokie, guys. So this is our finished product. I have mine on a tostada. I topped it with a little bit of Valentina salsa and some avocado. And I am serving it with some zucchini that I just fried in avocado oil and topped with salt, pepper, garlic powder, and finished with Parmesan. So that should be a nice side. And then we will get a taste test from the man himself.
You can eat them like this with a little cracker with galleta. Delicious. Really good.
All right, guys. Well, that was my short video on how I make ceviche. As I mentioned before, the recipe is so fluid. You basically just add however much of each ingredient you want to whatever type of protein and throw a bunch of lime juice in there and you're good to go. If you liked this video, I'd appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up or if you could share it with your friends. And if you loved it, I'd really be ecstatic if you could subscribe to my channel. I am so grateful for you guys. You didn't have to follow my channel. You like them?
Sorry, they're really good.
He likes the zucchini. I am just really grateful that you guys follow me and watch my videos. There's 1,000 recipe channels out there, and it just really warms my heart seeing my community grow. So thanks again for stopping by. The girls already ate dinner, so they're a done deal. So it's just us. So have a good night.